Hi everyone, what I'm going to show you now is about wagtail pads, because I was sick to death of them coming off all the time. I'm sure you are too. I mean, we've had clips and velcro and that sort of thing, but I've got the definitive answer now. I'm going to show you briefly how to do that. I'll just swing the camera back round to the work surface. There we are. What you can see on the table there is a couple of wagtails, but for this project you'll need the ones with the discs on it, you can see there. This one, you can see the actual handle is underneath the disc, right, and this one on top. I can use both, it doesn't seem to make much difference to me, but the ergonomics are very slightly different. Right, and also what you'll need is a couple of these type of pads, these wagtail pads. There's another one here. This is a slightly different type. It's got the sponge in the middle, and I've found that holds a lot more water, but you're going to pay for it in weight when you actually use it, because water's heavy. You can see it's been well used. With this particular one, I took it off an actual wagtail applicator, and I like it because it's got an extra width to it as well here, which is better, I think, than the other ones. I've got one here which you can see the difference. See the difference in width. You can see that quite clearly, and I think that helps here as well. But if you haven't got it, don't worry, this will still work, the narrower one. Right, you'll need for this project some scissors, a couple of small ties, zip ties like this, as you can see. And to start with, what you do, if you can see it's got holes in here, that's the pivot control originally, which I don't think many people use. And what you actually need to do is just thread your zip ties in. I've done that one already, as you can see, through the first two holes here. There you go. Tie this up. Now the trick here is not to do them too tight initially. You can see the loops I've got in there. And don't trim them off until you've got the right tension. Then you need like a piece of wire or something, anything strong enough, suitable, long enough as well. You can see this one here is just about right. It could have done with being just a little bit longer to actually go into the ends there, to stop it sliding up and down. But this is part of an old car aerial that I found on the road. It won't rust or anything, and it's ultra light. Okay, so the next thing you do when you get your pad, you can see there's like a slot in here, can't you? Well, all you do, turn it over, wagtail, see that clearly, and you measure the actual pad to fit the two ties as accurately as you can. It won't matter too much, but if it's too long, you're going to find your pad slides up and down when you've got this sorted. So if it's fairly close, it's okay, but too close you'll find it hard to put the rod in. So you cut a slot here when you've measured it with the scissors. See, I've already done mine. Also, if you've cut the ends off, you see this one's still got its ends on here. And it'll fray if you cut it. Well, I've had to cut the ends off here. You'll need to sew it up. So there might be some sewing involved with this project. Right, once you've done that, the other thing to do is cut a small hole in the end at the same side as where you've cut your slot here. You can do that with your scissors. You just fold it over like this and you cut it like that. Just a tiny one will do. And what that's for is to slide in your wire, or in my case this fiberglass effort here. Then this is how it works. You put it alongside here like that. I don't know whether you can see that. Yeah, that's better. First you put your rod, piece of wire, into your slot. The first time you do this it might actually be a little bit fussy, but after a couple of times it clears the way. There you go. That's the first bit through. Then what you do, you put it through your loops This is why it's best not to be too tight with your ties. Can you see that alright? And you push it through the second one. And this is the hardest bit, is to line it up with the other side of the sleeve there and push it through. Once you get used to this principle, it becomes quite easy. Just work it through there, just twist it away there, work it through, and it will come through to the other end. Now this is where it's really important to get the rod long enough. Mine's a bit too short, to be honest, so that you can actually pull this bit of your pad. You can pull your pad and you'll notice that slot into the end there of your sleeve, so it won't come out. And this is another thing where it's important. You don't want it coming out of the ends here, which I had a lot till I sewed it up properly. And that's why, you see, mine's a bit too short. It should be tensioned a little bit. It's important to get your length right. Now, you can see that pad flaps up and down really easily now. Acts like a hinge. Really does. It's absolutely superb, and there's a nice big gap there. And when it does flip over, you notice how that's almost exactly in the centre of the pad. You've got a lot of cleaning surface area on this. Now if you find that's too loose, you can do your ties up just a little bit, but if you do them up too much, you'll find it very, very hard to put the pad back on again. But when you're happy with that, see that flaps nicely, just trim the ties. If you trim them early, before you set them up, of course it's a bit harder to actually readjust them again. Okay, so that's that one done, and that's what I use every day. It's really good. Now when you come to wash the pad, if you want to get it off again, it's so simple. All you do is pull that out the end there, you can see, and that's it, done, job done. Okay, if you need the pad to be over the top, it's the very same principle, but if you're going to use this type of wagtail where you've got the pivot on top of the disc, it doesn't work very well because the actual point of the pivot there, the point of the handle, is actually going to touch the wire all the time. I've tried it, it still does work, but I use this one for downstairs windows underneath. Where you'd want the pad to flip over the top usually is for on a pole. But the same principle applies here. You see these, you might need more space here for your ties. Because of these two ridges you can see here, it makes it much tighter. So when you're actually doing this, you'll need much more leeway here, a little bit more slack in your ties. But it's the same principle. When you're putting it over the top, just got to get the orientation right, slide it through. Hope you can see that all right. Slide it through again. I can't get it through the next one because it's not set up for one of these over the tops, but let's just assume that's gone through the tie, and then you just line it up again, slide it in, and then you've got it flipping over the top then, as you can see. Fantastic. I want to take it off again, dead simple, pulls out, and that's it, job done. Now with these sort of pads, the other type, if you find it's too long for the actual wagtail you're using, see that one is obviously too long, but it's correct for the other one. That's about right, you can see. If you have too much sticking out of each end, what will happen is it will foul the window frames and tend to push the actual edge of the blade away from the frame when you're actually working. So what you need to do, if you want to shorten them, just cut them in the middle, cut a piece out and then sew them back together again. It won't make any difference to the surface, it works just fine. So there you go, there's the definitive answer to wagtail pad problem. That's what I use all the time, they won't come off, you can throw them about. It's a great idea, so have a go at that. It's not that hard. So there you go, job done.